Thank you and good afternoon. This is Sam Vaughan for Sam Sports Report and Sam's Learning Disability Day. What is dysgraphia? We've talked about it a few times, more than a few times. Dysgraphia is a learning disability that makes it difficult to write. These two sides of dysgraphia are motor weaknesses and affects physical process, cognitive challenges, written expression. Dysgraphia is all like learning disabilities. It is not something that you grow out of or cured. It's not a reflection of your childhood or intellectual abilities. Creative with the right treatment support dysgraphia managed so kids learn how to write and keep up. Dysgraphia is a learning disorder and impairs all abilities to write. Like learning disabilities, no way that your child isn't smart, creative, capable of success. In fact, with the right support, kids with dysgraphia can learn how to write. Using students' services is a good idea. That was brought by me. Some of the signs of motor skill challenges like difficulty holding a pencil, forming letters with dysgraphia may be really
tiring
even for the painful hands. It also can do while you not grabbing the right pencil. So these pens are really good to use to write. It can make you write faster. They have good grip. But what I used to do with the pencil is instead of grabbing with two hands like this, I would just wrap my hand around it. Anyways, I'd wrap my hand around it like this. And you can't write when you write your hand like this. So there you go. Separating apart motor skills, dysgraphia is an operative, including struggling with spatial grammar, structure of written expression. A child with dysgraphia might have a hard time translating their ideas onto paper. The part of dys is like dyslexia with the spelling, and you might have dyslexia as well. Children either experiencing motor cognitive disorder of both. Dysgraphia can lead to clinicals, usually occupational therapists for motor issues and neurological cognitive challenges, and schools provide accommodations to help them in the classroom. Some of those accommodations include giving them time for assignments, a keyboarding recording, and a graphic. Organizers to structure their assignments. Yes, an OT helper is a good idea. There is many ways that children can support a child. You can seek a fact of low self-confidence, but with the right support in the classroom, they can effectively manage dysgraphia and keep their peers, remind them of good things that they do well. That will help them build self-confidence. Attention deficit disorder is what they'll talk about in here a little bit. Is ADHD is marked by an ongoing pattern of
inattention
and hyperactivity, impulsivity that refers to development. That wraps up our video. You've seen more on ADHD before. This is Sam Vaughan for Sam's Sports Report and Sam's Learning Disability Day.
Yes. Now, Johanny had written in and said, Dr. Doreen, my 10-year-old son was just reevaluated as required by our insurance, and we were just given an added diagnosis of dysgraphia and ADD. My concern is with the dysgraphia. The doctor said it is in his processing mentally and that handwriting and technical aids are just one piece. It is a cause of his comprehension issues. Everything I search talks about that only. We are waiting for the complete report. We had a face-to-face to review the results, and we'll have the written report next week. What do you recommend? Who are we supposed to see? Therapy, support, and thank you in advance.
Sure. So I would not be that concerned about that. We've had children who have dysgraphia and they learn to overcome it just like any other kind of motor deficit, right? So I think you do have therapy, and your team of therapists can certainly focus on this aspect. And you break it down essentially, and you will look at the motor functioning aspect of it, if there's any level of dyslexia involved in it, because sometimes it is difficult to differentiate between the two. And if there's any level of comprehension. I mean, you named some of the stuff here, Johanni, and it's basically the same as any other aspect of what you have already been through with the symptoms of autism. Break them down. The name doesn't matter. Break down the skill that is weak and strengthen it. And have your ABA team work on it and focus on it until they are able to get your child to a level where he's functioning like other kids. The ADD is difficult to give a diagnosis of ADD on its own. Essentially, that means the ADHD, but not the hyperactive type. Right? So it means the inattentive type of attention deficit people usually refer to as ADD. They shouldn't, because the name is no longer ADD, it is ADHD, and then there's 3 types. So there's the hyperactive type, the inattentive type, and the combined type. So my assumption is that someone is giving you a diagnosis and saying your child has a difficult time paying attention, but they're not hyperactive. So that's the one I would focus on more, honestly, because that has to do with being able to, and that'll help the mental processing aspect of things that you're worried about as well, which is, it's more about all the things you can do to improve attention. And now we're talking about things like sustained attention. So that means paying attention to something for a period of time that's longer than what we're comfortable with. So that you shape up gradually, right? And you can start with topics that the child is interested in, and then gradually increase the duration of time and ask questions about it. And then you can work on topics that the child's not interested in, and you'll see that's a much lower baseline. Usually we don't pay attention to things we're not interested in, and try to increase that gradually and reward it. Then there's like divided attention, which basically means that I am watching TV and there's something going on in the kitchen, and I should be able to continue to watch TV, but kind of have an idea of what's going on in the kitchen as well. So when someone asks me questions about it, I can say, yeah, this is what's happening here, and I also know that so-and-so's in the kitchen doing something. I think they're cooking. You should be able to have that.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about running backs. And featuring that subject will be myself, Shannon Chop, and Chad Johnson. We'll preview that. We'll tell you why running backs should be paid more by incentives instead of being low on the totem pole and dropping to 30 and having to retire and them not making as much money as receivers do. And how can we make them more comparable for this position if they are absolutely beat to the ground? Also, Michigan State fires Mel Tucker, football coach, for having a harassment investigation. The school said the retirement was left of Tucker's $95 million contract for acknowledging actions that subject that institution and to re-include benching his contract moral true bid, and he will be fired for cause. That's what they were looking for to fire him because of his wrong actions. This is Sam Vaughan for Sam Sports Report.